and our first off the ball segment's loaded. We're going to have a first, second, and a third off the ball because we had some trades go down. We had one drop ball, we were live, but we didn't get to have Leger's take on it. We'll actually have that a little bit later on when we do our deep dive segment. But then Amari Cooper, a little later on in the day, he gets traded from the Cleveland Browns to the Buffalo Bills. The Bills get Cooper and a 2025 sixth rounder for a 2025 third rounder from the Bills and a 2026 seventh rounder. The Browns earlier this year converted his salary this year to bonus, so it doesn't cost like anything.
It's like $1.5 million.
Yeah, from a cap perspective.
Correct.
To do this deal.
You're not paying anything.
That's why they did this. That's why they did that cap maneuver, but they're not getting a third round pick if that's not the case. Like, that's why they get the trade sort of haul they did. But to me, I mean, Amari Cooper ain't the same Amari Cooper. He's 30 years old at this point. We've said he's had some issues with drops this year, but he immediately becomes the best separator on this Bills team. Right?
Without a doubt, I don't think it's close.
I mean, he slept on league wide. When we think about a guy who can do everything, like a true wide receiver, the old school kind of guy who can do all the routes, line up anywhere, run any concept. Amari Cooper can do that. So for Josh Allen, this is a brand new luxury. And you got to think those guys in the Browns locker room are like, how do I get traded out of here? Like, can I, does San Diego need a guard?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, he ultimately becomes their true number one. You talked about it, Kyle. I think he's been slept on for most of his career. He's one of the best route running receivers that is currently in the NFL. And it's always funny, Kyle, and we'll see this, right? Devonta Adams has a hamstring injury, right? We'll see how healthy that hamstring is now that he's been traded. Amari Cooper at times looked like he was disinterested in being there, right? You talked about it, Mike, had some drops. It'll be interesting now that he's in first place in the AFC East. Does that energy kind of change? Like, sometimes a change of scenery is what a player truly needs to revitalize them, right? And to your point, there was a reason why they gave him a little bit more money this year, because he was coming off a big season with like 5 different quarterbacks last year for the Cleveland Browns. So he can still play at a high level. I think part of it was he was in trade talks, right? You know what that could do to a guy's psyche, like not knowing whether you're going to be on a team or not. And then the trade doesn't go down, but now you know that they were trying to trade you to potentially go get Brandon Ayuk. So do you truly believe in me? Do you really want me here for the future? Now he's going to a place where they're in first place in their division. It'll be interesting to see, do we see the old Amari Cooper that we're accustomed to seeing?
Yeah, Amari Cooper's always been one of those guys that flies under the radar in terms of personality. For those of you who don't, dive into the weeds with this NFL stuff, you can't really find Amari Cooper anywhere. I can't remember hearing him talk. I remember in 2015 at the Pro Bowl, or 16, it was like, I don't know what his voice sounds like. Everybody else, all the other players talk to each other and everything. And I think Amari's one of those reserved guys.
Correct.
Obviously, he's been reserved in terms of the public eye because he's been in Cleveland. But now the light at the end of the tunnel is no longer a train coming at you. That was waking up every morning in the Cleveland Browns program and having to go to work with Deshaun Watson and the current situation there. You wake up now. You're a Buffalo Bill. Yeah. You have Josh Allen as your quarterback, and you have the opportunity to make a run at this thing. It's got to be so exciting. And for people that are specifically Amari Cooper fans, you got to think we're going to see the best version, because he's going to be motivated to be great, prove himself, prove the Bills right for making this move. It's exciting time for football.
And to your point, right, the biggest way he can help is win versus man coverage. And that's where the Bills have struggled right now. Even though Josh Allen, I think, threw for like 215 yards, you got to think 2 of those throws were like 60 yards of him breaking the pocket and throwing the ball down the field. So it wasn't within the structure of the offense. That was their issue versus the Houston Texans. When you watch tape, nobody was getting off a press man, right? Amari Cooper is one of the best releasers off the line of scrimmage and route runners. That's where he can help Josh Allen, especially on big third downs when you need somebody to come up with a catch.
He literally has an athletic apparel brand called Route Runners. That's how he's
Amari
a man
Cooper
who's
does?
dedicated to his craft.
This is terrible. This is
something new every day.
The worst marketing ever. Like I said about Amari Cooper, you don't hear from him. And if he's going to start a brand, I definitely am not going to hear from the brand. Thank you for that. Route Runners. Go check it out.
I love that. Yeah.
I will say this.
We'll take a check, Amari.
We'll go to the other perspective here, because from the Bills, it could put them over the top. Like, I think they're in the mix. I don't think this is the Bills that we saw even 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Correct. But as long as you're kind of in there consistently in the mix in the AFC playoff picture, which they definitely are, this is a guy that can change the calculus come January, come February, that maybe gets you over the hump in that one game. From the Browns' perspective, this to me is the first of like many sort of moves like this. They are going to
yard sale.
They're going to yard sale. They're going to clean house. You look at just their situation right now. This was the year. They were playing for this year. When you
Correct.
look at all the contracts they gave, how they gave it, where they scheduled their money, it was all to put this roster together for this year. And obviously, it's been a dumpster fire. And then now you look, 2025, they're currently over the cap. 1 to 2 teams over the cap. Not only 2025, though, but in 2026, they're currently over the cap. So 2 years from now.
Crazy.
They are already over the cap. Obviously, that's a big part of that is the Deshaun Watson deal. But then they've given out other deals that they've kind of backloaded, whether it's guys like Myles Garrett or whatnot in that roster that are maybe a little bit lighter now, but are going to come to roost and how much they're going to have to pay them later. So if you're going to do this deal, and yeah, last year of his deal, it was one small piece. But man, I think there are going to be more of these from the Cleveland Browns. Maybe not the deadline, but this offseason.
More spicy guys getting out of there, going somewhere.
I can see another big name, and it may not be a big name to Kyle's point if you guys aren't locked into football, but Zadarius Smith could be a name. I know people have thrown Myles Garrett's name out there. I don't think that's ever going to happen because he literally is what Cleveland Browns are trying to be. What they want their team to be is Myles Garrett. You don't take the face of the franchise and trade him away, right? I know people talked about, well, Max Crosby, could you do? No, he's a Raider through and through. Like, he is the face of the Raiders, so I don't see them trading him. But a guy definitely like Zadarius Smith could definitely help a team. We saw the Detroit Lions lose Aiden Hutchinson. Makes a lot of sense.
And we see a lot of these teams that are in need of a rusher go and get one. And I think about there's a handful of guys that were in the league when we were in the league that got hired, signed towards the end of the year to go be that gun for hire, the contract killer off the edge. And when it's third down, they're going to get home. And, is that Zadarius Smith? It could be for some team. He could be the answer. It's going to be interesting to see how they piecemeal this roster and figure out how to get the most for it. And other teams are going to get richer because of it.
To that point, it looks like Nick Chubb could be making his return, right? So we'll see if that, revitalizes this team just a little bit because he epitomizes what hard work is, right, for the Cleveland Browns. And he's always been that, blue collar guy that's put in the work, that gave you the dirty yards and the explosive runs. And they've clearly missed him on that team. So we'll see if that kind of revitalizes this Cleveland Browns team after trading away Amari Cooper.
Well, you look at the way that offensive line, though, and we always talk about, like, when we first started talking about the Falcons this year, we said, well, they're throwing the ball too much. They have to run the ball more. Yeah. That Cleveland Browns offensive line is and was built to pound the football. Correct. And you get Deshaun Watson out there without your star running back, without the identity of your football team. You got Deshaun doing things that are uncharacteristic of himself. Well, now they're characteristic of himself. But that's the way your offense looks when it's mismatched. So for Nick Chubb to come back, it'll be big for that group.
It'll be interesting, right? Because Deshaun kind of wants to run that spread offense, but that's not who Kevin Stefanski is. To your point, they want to run the ball and go heavy play action with 12 personnel, 1 back, 2 tight ends. They've been more 11 personnel, which is kind of uncharacteristic for Kevin Stefanski. It'll be interesting now that Nick Chubb is starting to work his way back. That you say, you know what, forget that. Maybe the season's lost. Maybe it's not. Let's get back to who we are, right? Let's get back to who we are. Deshaun, we'll have some plays in there that you're comfortable with, but if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down my way, right? We're going to run the football. I'm going to get the tight ends heavily involved. We're going to attack down the seams. This is how we've won here, right? And I've changed things up to help the quarterback out because that's where he's comfortable. But at the end of the day, if we're going to go down, we're going to go down my way.
They got to feel us. Yeah, that's 100%. The message, I think, in Cleveland. Like, we might lose every game, but they are going to feel us. They're going to remember who they played.
The other news from yesterday, Russell Wilson may be the starter. Some people reporting who will be. Mike Tomlin says
area news story.
He's in.
Oh, this is the mess with the Jets 100% for Sunday Night Football. Oh, yeah, because you know this, Kyle. A lot of times, if you don't know who's going to start, you have to game plan for both of them. So that makes you think even more, Mike, in regards to the game plan that week. So if you know that Justin Fields is starting, for sure, you're like, all right, we have to pay attention to the quarterback run game. We got killed by Josh Allen too many times, allowing him to get out of the pocket. Justin Fields gives you that same issue as well. With Russell, yes, he's a little bit athletic, but he's not as athletic as Justin Fields is. So, like, he'll take some sacks in the pocket. Like, he'll stay in the pocket. He wants to throw the moon ball down the field. So now the Jets literally have to prepare for 2 different quarterbacks. Wouldn't he be surprised if they decide to play both of these guys this Sunday, right? Just to make sure the Jets have to do a little bit more prep to get ready to play them on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, I mean, if Russell Wilson he looks skinnier, by the way. In the news,
slimmed up.
I was in the studio
like
yesterday. Me and Prisco are sitting next to each other. They show Russell Wilson. They put on the lower third the quote from Tomlin, and he was like, "I think Russell Wilson looks skinnier." So we say that a 35, 36-year-old Russell Wilson is slower. He's still not the same type of mobility as Justin Fields, and that's true. But don't sell Russell Wilson down the river just yet. The guy is still a great athlete. He's still the guy that was super creative in the pocket and able to do things. And to your point, that deep ball is what made Russell Wilson Russell Wilson. So let's see if he's still got that in the tank.
To your point, if you're in that locker room, how do you feel about this move, though?
I'm not sure how to feel. I mean, honestly, I can't answer that question honestly unless I'm in that locker room and I'm part of those conversations, sitting on our little stools in front of the locker saying, how did it go for you guys today? Because, you know, the defense is really curious oftentimes how the meetings went on the offensive side of the ball. How are the answers in the blitz meeting? You know, is your guy ready to go mentally? You know, I think the question is, which one of these guys gives us the best chance to win? And we're going to find that out. If Russell Wilson goes out there and plays and it looks lackluster, I'm sure we'll see Justin Fields back in there.
Correct.
But if Justin Fields is given the opportunity, I think he's going to continue to get better. He's not a world beater right now, but he's not losing.
He's not losing the game.
Games.
Yeah.
I think I'll read this Tomlin quote. And to me, I think it was a great quote to hear from a head coach. And like if I was in the locker room, this is what I want to hear. He said, Justin has been really good. And we've been really good at times, but not to be confused with great. This is a competitive league. We're trying to position ourselves to be that team. We've got a player with talent who hasn't had the opportunity to play, so we're going to potentially explore those things. That's just love.
He's
like
Tomlin.
saying, "Hey, I want to win a Super Bowl." You know, like right now, objectively, we're not winning the Super Bowl with Justin Fields.
Correct.
And that's fine to say. Like we're just haven't been to there, so I want to see if this guy gives us that ceiling. Now, again, I don't think any of us think it does give him that ceiling going to Russell Wilson, but he has won one, and he has played at that level in the past. And so I think that's...
Do we see some 2 quarterback sets?
I would love it. I mean, Fields.
Possibly.
I mean, both guys are athletic.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, gotta love Mike Tomlin, right? I feel like he just has the perfect answer for every single question. And to your point, right? Yes, they've played good enough to win on offense or not lose on offense, but that's not sustainable in regards to the defense. There's going to be a game where the defense is going to give up some yardage.
TJ won't get 2 forced fumbles.
Well, you got to think now they're really hurting on the edge too. I think Herbig is hurt right now, and Highsmith. So right now you got to think that TJ Watt's going to be getting all the attention this week versus the New York Jets. So will somebody else be able to step up and get to the quarterback? If not, that puts your corners on the island, which they're a lot better right now because Dante Jackson kind of solidified that secondary. But there's going to be a game where they give up probably like 22, 23 points. Does the offense do enough to match that to win? I think that's what Tomlin is saying. We're going to explore every position here, not just the quarterback position. If there's somebody that we feel that can help us and he has a role on his team, we're going to put him in the game.